Okay, so quick heads up that we are obviously we are Crowdfundr, and we are going to be a platform that is accessible to anybody that has creative projects that they would like to run on our platform. We did initially have this particular session geared towards a more of a print-based community, so graphic artists, comic creators, and so forth. So a lot of the examples and a lot of the things we talk about today may hit a bit closer to home for those groups of folks. But as I mentioned earlier, we in the platform you can run things such as films or music projects and other literature projects as well. So just something to keep in the back of the mind if you feel like this isn't specifically, you don't feel like this is applying to you as much in these examples. That the platform does cater to all sorts of arts. So just something to kind of mention right off the bat. So thank you for joining the call today. And we're going to talk today about how Crowdfundr is going to transform the way you fund your creative projects. So we're going to look at the platform a little bit. We'll look at some of the examples that I have lined up here as well, and talk about how we're different and, in our opinion, better in doing some of the things that we do for crowdfunding for these creative projects. So I am Daman Arora. Some of you who I know here, some of you I haven't had a chance to meet, and I hope I get to at some point. And I'm the Director of Operations at Crowdfundr. Been here for just shy of 2 years now, and it's a super, super fun place to be. So I'm pretty happy to be here. I do have, unfortunately not with me, my CTEO, Gus, my dog. He double booked himself with a nap, so he's prioritizing that over this webinar, but he's got me speaking on behalf. But you can see up there, he's my at-home manager and makes sure that I get my work done. So he's the inspiration behind this deck. Also, just heads up, if any of you will be at SPX this year, feel free to come check us out. We're in booth I2. Come by, grab a bookmark, some sketchbook, say hello. We'd love to connect with any single person that in here is going to be there. And obviously we want to say hello to you. So if you have a table, we'd love to come to check out your stuff as well. I do want to quickly mention that if you do have any questions, feel free to either drop it in the chat box, or towards the end of the presentation, we'll do a Q&A for anybody that wants to ask questions. And you are all able to unmute yourself. So if you do want to just ask the question instead of typing it out, please feel free to do so. It makes it that much more better sometimes. So I'm happy to, just spend a little time towards the end having a discussion with anybody that would like to. Okay, so our mission and our why, essentially. So, what are we about and why are we doing what we're doing? And the main things here, there's so many reasons, but, the main things are really like we want to be a creator-friendly platform and just listen to the community. So if any of you have been, speaking with us about Crowdfundr since we initially launched it, you probably realized pretty quickly that we're all about taking feedback from the community that will be using the platform and trying to put those features or functionalities into the actual application. So, we realize that this is a platform for use, and the best way for us to be successful in giving you that platform is hearing what you have to say and listening to what are the pain points, what are the things you would like to have, what things work really well, and just kind of use those things to go ahead and basically talk about, right, and incorporate into the platform. We also want to increase access for creators to powerful and free crowdfunding tools. So again, we want to give you everything. We'll talk a bit about, all the functions, some of the functionalities in the platform. But you'll notice if you ever take a look at our pricing page, we do have different pricing models. But I think the key thing to mention there is that we don't limit the features based on those models. So we still give you all the functionality. That's more about how you can present your projects to the communities in a way that would drive more success. But we don't say, well, if you use this, you get like 50% of the tool and 75% and 100%. We want to give you all of those tools and resources we can. We have the Creator Hub, where we're putting all kinds of content and webinar. We're trying to build a community there, a help center as well. So, we want to really make sure that we equip our users with everything that we can give to them. And we're putting people and planet first. So, we strive to be a carbon neutral company. We are really focusing on giving people what they need to be successful. We'll talk a bit about this, but we are hoping that all people of all sides of the projects are going to come onto our platform and feel like this is the place for them to do that. So you may raise a small fraction of somebody else's project to do your project. So let's say you only need $200-300 to run a sticker project. Absolutely, that's exactly what we want to do. So we don't want people to feel limited with that they can't do something on ours, on our platform. And at the end of the day, we want to do social good in the world. We come from our sister platform is Fundraise, as you can see in the next point there. That is all about giving people a platform to raise funds to do good in the world. So we're all about that, and we wanted to make sure that stays in the front and center of everything we do. And of course, we do have deep expertise in crowdfunding, which we want to pass on to our community. Our sister platform Fundraiser has raised over $250 million now in about 200,000 plus projects. So we've been around for a little while. Our team kind of knows what we're doing, and we have some strategies to share with people, some suggestions, and we're always looking to see new and fun projects at Crowdfundr, especially that can help us grow those numbers that we see here today. Okay, so currently, creative crowdfunding is essentially, all or nothing campaign. So basically, either you raise it all or you don't get anything. It's often felt like it's really for those big creative projects. So you need to raise $20,000, you need to raise $30,000. Anything smaller doesn't feel like you support it, if you will. And it's very reliant on algorithms of crowdfunding platforms. So, what I mean by that is, if you don't hit a certain threshold by a certain time, your project has a lower chance of success. So that's kind of like the way things seem to work these days. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand what you can do with crowdfunding. So sure, you can still do that all or nothing project that you may be comfortable with and used to, and that might be the right use case for you. But you can also do a keep it all model with Crowdfundr. And what that allows you to do is basically, as your contributions come in, as your orders come in, you have the option, if you would like, to just get that money right away, right? You don't have to wait till you are at a certain point, you've raised all your funds. So this is, imagine if you have already, printed a whole bunch of comic books, and you kind of got them sitting around, and well, not so much sitting around, but waiting for people to purchase them. Keep it all is great, because then people can go ahead, claim that book or that order, and you don't have to wait till whatever your goal was set to has been reached. You can just start sending those out as they come in. Or you may want to self-fund at a certain point and say, if I get 50%, I'll self-fund the other 50%. And you may not want to put it on the page, but you might want to start shipping those books out at the time when you hit that 50%. So we give you a bit more of that freedom where you can just keep it all as it comes in. We also, save time and stay efficient. So we do allow for instant launch on campaigns. So that what that means is you can go ahead, sign up, get the page set up, and launch literally in like matter of minutes to hours, depending on how much work you're putting on that page. We allow for campaign cloning. So if you've had a really good, successful campaign, and you say, hey, look, I just want to duplicate this and tweak a few things, don't start from scratch. Go ahead and clone it in the platform, very easy to do, and you basically have a version of what you were using before. You can also use Crowdfundr for continuous stream of funds for sustainable revenue. So what all this means is, once you reach your goal on a project, you don't have to shut it down. You can keep that page up and running, and people can still keep on purchasing your comics from that page. So a couple things happen. One is you don't have to create a separate storefront after you run your campaign. That storefront basically, that becomes your storefront, that campaign page. And then also from an SEO perspective, if you think about it, somebody's searching for something they heard was doing quite well in terms of the comic, or they're interested in that particular comic, and then they go ahead and say, well, I missed it, right? But that Crowdfundr page of yours may have bumped its way up the rankings a little bit in search engine because it's been up for a while and it was a successful project. We can just continue to leverage that, right? So people are still searching for that. Let's get them right to that page where you already have the form set up for the order, or people can go ahead and pick what they want to order. And then from there, they can go ahead and just grab what they need. So you don't have to shut that page down, and it can be a continuous stream of funds, right? So you can continue to go ahead and use that page as your storefront for that particular piece of work. And branding. So, you can brand your Crowdfundr page, especially if you are an organization like a publisher, or you are You want to create a brand page specifically, not as an individual, but your comic brand, your publishing brand, whatever that may be. You can add your own logos on the page, and you can kind of give it that feel of what your particular branding is. So as your supporters come onto that page, they kind of feel that familiar look that they're used to, whether it's your works on your website or your social media. You get a little more creative control. So I kind of like this quote here that we have. So, crowdfunding is one more way to stay connected with your supporters. And look at it as an action-driven form of marketing and community building. So I've talked to a few people about this, and it's interesting because everybody has a slightly different take on it, and they're all right. They're all correct. But my take on it is, it's, of course, it's the most literal form. Yes, you can stay more connected with your supporters than people that support your project. I really like the community building aspect of it, because it lets you find that community through, people that are interested in the work that you're doing, and build that community. So it's almost like you want to support your local business, but the local business is online, and the people that are local are very hyper specific to your work. So that action driven form is you can kind of share with them the work you're doing, not just by asking them to buy the book, but you can say, hey, look, I'm doing a sketch for this next comic. Here's a sneak peek of it. And you're basically reaching that larger audience through that page that may have supported volume 1, but volume 2 is coming, and you're building that community more and more. So it's a really, really powerful way to keep growing your presence in the space, and continue to build out your audience and your community as well. So I think it's kind of important to mention that you can run projects of any size. In this particular scenario, and again, I'll circle back to what I said earlier, you can absolutely run all kinds of film projects and music projects and so on. We are in this particular webinar more focused on the print-based projects, but even within that realm, I think people think that, oh, if it's print-based, it has to be this, really, really big graphic novel project or comic project. Sure, it can absolutely be those things, but it can also be something as little as pens and stickers. So if that's something you are interested in, and you have a really cool piece of art that you want to make into a sticker and sell it, that can be a very small project, but you can certainly run that on a platform. You can run projects that are digital issues of works that you do, posters, reprints and collections or limited editions, any kind of artwork that you can generate or create and sell, like big or small, you can use that, you can raise for that on Crowdfundr. So it's definitely worth considering as you think, oh, is this big enough? It doesn't have to be. If it's important enough, that's where you want to go ahead and start to run those campaigns. So let's take a look at a few different campaigns that are currently on Crowdfundr to give you a sample of what we have going on. So I'm just gonna move the Zoom guy here. Okay, so the first one I want to show you is Ghost Island. And again, this is a graphic novel. And this kind of goes into that category of, it doesn't have to be a massive project. So as you can see, this is a UK-based project, and they tried to raise £250. Not the most amount of money, but enough for this project to get the funding it needed to achieve the goals that they wanted. And you can see they've done a great job with, they have a video here. You can press that play button. They have the story here. They've got some rewards and perks, which we'll talk about in a bit on this session as well. But you can see it's a pretty, it's a standard campaign, and they did quite well. As you can see, they've been running for about a month, just maybe over, and they're almost double their goal, right? So this is a good example of a smaller project that you may want to run on the platform. We'll kind of look at a medium-sized one next, which is this one here called Ricochet and the Fangs. And they tried to raise 3.5K, so 3,500, and they just surpassed their goal in about 20 days. Awesome project. And again, you'll notice a common theme with some of these is they put in the artwork in the story, and they talk about what their project is and share some samples of it. So really kind of as the viewer, as the person coming in to look at the page, you kind of get to see what it's all about, but it also has that uniqueness to it. But like, oh, like, yes, I want to see that in action. I want to actually get a hard copy of this. This looks exactly the kind of thing I want. And of course, there's all kinds of fun perks. So you can get a keychain in a book, you can get sticker sheet in a book. So different combinations of sort of perks you can get if you purchase it through this option or this option. So like I said, we'll cover perks in a bit, but this is a slightly bigger project that has run and is running successfully because it's still currently happening. And one thing to point out here, you'll notice is that although they have their goal set, they're at 111%. So you can definitely go past your goal and keep going, right? They may see that and say, okay, well, we can certainly print more books because more people want them. So why not, right? Like, no reason you have to cut it off. So we don't necessarily force you to stop. You can keep that going and turn it into a storefront so that, a year from now, somebody can come back, and if you still have it up and running and you have a way to get to them, keep this page live and let people go ahead and order what they need to. And then jump into a slightly larger project. This one was 20,000. It's been running just shy of 2 months now. And again, they too have been having a very successful time. And this is Black Phoenix. And basically, again, you can go down here, you'll see they've got that story. They've got a few nice images from the actual comic, the book rather. So, again, all sizes are welcome and all sizes can be successful on this platform. Of course, the strategy is involved, and we're happy to help you in that process. But I feel like I tell people, don't feel intimidated that you see a $20,000 project, because as you saw here, there's a 250-pound project that's also quite successful. They've almost doubled up on their goal. So just wanted to show you, three very, very they're very good projects, but I just want to show you three of like many different projects that we currently have running that it shows you that what you can do with the platform. Okay. Going backwards there. All right. So how does it work? What's the, I guess, how do we kind of get going? Well, the getting started part is pretty easy, actually. So it can really take anywhere from 10 minutes up to an hour. And, I say that because the 10 minutes version is you go in there, you put in the basics of your information, the name of your project, your name or your organization, if you're setting that up, maybe a couple of photos, a little bit of a copy paste text if you've got that somewhere. You tell your story, you drop a couple of rewards in there, 10 minutes, that's all you need, it can be done. The 60-minute version may be the one where you say, okay, well, I'm going to really, really fine tune this. I'm going to get the images that I want in specific places. I'm going to work on the colors a little bit with the way the text looks. I'm going to really, get creative with the perks. So it really comes down to how much effort you're wanting to put in there. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be good if you kind of get it up and running in 10 minutes. You may have a version of the campaign that just needs 10 minutes, and that's great. So, it's really up to you, but you can really get going right away. Once you've got that set up, launch it. There's no approval required. We don't make you wait a week or two or a day or whatever. If you're ready and you're able to connect your payment processor, go for it. Go ahead and launch it, start sharing it out with your community. What's also important to note here is that even when you launch a project, you may come back and say, you know what, I should have thrown a couple more images into that story that I want to share with people. You can still tweak your campaign. Nothing locks in, right? There's some limitations with rewards, but even that, you can certainly work around that, and we're happy to help you with it. But you can always modify your Crowdfundr page after you start the campaign. So don't ever feel like you have to wait till it's 100% perfect. If you feel like it's 90% there, 95% there, and you just want to get going, and you'll tweak things here and there as you kind of get the time or you start to see how things go, we don't lock you in. So, I always recommend, if you feel like you're almost there, like, don't keep your audience waiting. They're probably excited to see what you're doing. So let's start sharing that up with them. And then use the social sharing tool. So, we'll see again when I go back to some more of the examples, but there are ways to share your campaigns on those different social media platforms that, most of our community members use. And also you can just drop the link as well. So if you're in a very specific, group or Discord or a Reddit thread that, you want to share your stuff to, obviously copy and pasting the link is just as effective in those places. So start sharing it out, build that momentum, get some excitement going on. And, focus on the real goal numbers. So at the end of the day, just what do you need to raise, start putting that on there, and just say, especially if it's a keep it all, if you need 75% to really get that publishing going, the keep it all model is great. Once you hit 75%, awesome. The rest could be, money to help pay for your work at the end of the day. You're obviously needing to buy groceries and pay rent and so on. So all of those things are important, but just go ahead and launch your project, because that's the only thing that gets in the way of you actually raising money. It's not starting. And then just when you start raising your funds, just start promoting it. As I mentioned, put it out in your social channels, ask your friends and fans to support your work by, if they can purchase it, amazing. And, something else they can do really helpful is share it within their own social networks as well, right? Spread the word out for you, as well as you spread it out too. So that's a really important one. You can get the funds immediately, as I mentioned. So if you are doing that keep it all model, start getting it right away as it comes in. We do have offline backing as well, which is great because if you do have some folks that would say, hey, I'm just going to give you some cash, or in the off chance you have somebody that sponsors your work, and that's great. If you do, what you can do is you can add that into your campaign as the part of the funds raised. And there's no fees associated with that. You've done that independent of the campaign, but you want that to be reflective of the overall amounts of funds raised. So you can easily go in and drop that in there. It'll adjust the amount that's raised if you're displaying that information. And as far as your backers know, or people that come to purchase products, they'll see that progression as well. Now, it's really important that you do take some time to thank your donors and write updates, because that's part of that community building. If I'm purchasing a comic or a graphic novel that you made, or a pin that you made, I'll show you where the activity feed that shows up on your page, but you can easily go in there and you can do certain things. I like that particular activity of me making that purchase. You can respond right in there and say, hey, Damon, thanks so much. Appreciate the support. Or you can even share that on your social media. But just that extra bit of, gratitude or interaction with your supporters makes them feel like, they're supporting you, and you are acknowledging that by thanking them, or you're acknowledging that by seeing them there and just saying, hey, that's awesome, I'm so happy to see you bought that. So just doing those little things are going to help not only continue to drive that particular project, but you start to gain these fans that appreciate you as a human being plus your work, right? It's not just your work, so they want to support you even more. And as I've been saying so far, once you get that goal reached to 100% and you say, okay, don't have to end your project there. You can go ahead and basically turn that into a storefront, right? So those rewards will still be there. Those items will still be there. People can still place those orders if you have the ability to fulfill them. And you can certainly turn it off if you don't want it anymore. But from what I've seen, a lot of the creators out there, they would like to keep selling their work. So turning that into a storefront is a great way to make sure that people don't get disconnected, or where do I go now that this is over? Where do I find this particular piece of work? And of course, repeat. So, you've had a successful project, amazing. Let's start on the next one. And I should say, you don't have to wait for one project to finish to start the next. If you're kind of really getting in the rhythm of things and you're like, hey, I know how to run these successful campaign after campaign, and you say, you know what, I'm going to run 2 at a time because I'm 100% confident I can do that, by all means do that. We're not going to limit you on that. So, feel free to run simultaneous campaigns if you feel like you have the bandwidth, capacity, and the confidence to do so. And we're here to help you as well. If you need some assistance with that and you want to talk through some strategies, reach out to us. We've got some strategists that are more than happy to do that and get in a call with you. Okay, so let's take a few moments to look at the back end of Crowdfundr. And I will say again that, our backend is actually quite large. So I'm not going to go through every single feature. I've done training sessions that have taken a full hour where we just focus specifically on the features. But I do want to highlight a few of the important ones that I think are worth going over, at least for this session. So right off the bat, you'll see now this is Beehive Books. This is sort of a internal organization we created for demo purposes. You'll see that we have a profile page, and this is an organization. So this is an organization profile page. Now you can really leave it blank, or you can add some details and start to really fill in the profile page with some relevant information about who you are, your overall works in general, as opposed to specific projects, your past projects, if you wish to do so. It's almost like your landing page for your brand, right? So you can have this here to, if any of your supporters come here, it gives it a flavor of who you are as an individual or a business, and this is a great place to do that. Next up, we have campaigns. So as you are running your campaigns, current or past, or for that matter, any unlaunched campaigns, you'll see them all here. So it's kind of a nice, clean view of everything you have accessible to you. You can go in and open any one of them up if you wish to do so. and just start working on that campaign or see how that campaign is doing. And then again, this is where you would come in and say, hey, you know what? I had a really, really good campaign with this guy right here on the bottom. And I did this maybe 6 months ago and I want to do it again. I can click on this gear icon and you can see I have a clone campaign. So I can just click on that. It'll ask me to give it a name. I can copy over the media. If I have rewards or registration stuff that I've added in there, I can do that as well. I just hit clone campaign. Simple as that. And then you just go in there and make any modifications you want to the text or the images just to update it a little bit and keep it fresh. But you don't have to start from scratch with everything you may have done. You may have spent an hour on this. The next time you do it, you might spend 10 minutes on this. So really, really cool way to do it. And all can be done from here. Now, at a quick glance, if you are running multiple projects, or if you want to see from all the projects you have run on the platform, all the transactions, you can come into the transaction. And of course, again, we are in a demo organization, so we don't have any live transactions here, but you can see everything here and you can see all the different headers we provide there. You can also, if you really need to export that information, you can go ahead and download that information right from there. And you can have a copy of it, outside of the platform. The other really important thing I want to mention here is team. And team is where you may add other people who you work with. So let's say you're a publisher and you are, it's you and 2 other people on your team that do all the work, and you want them involved in all of these projects as well. So basically, if you've created the organization, you can go ahead and click on invite someone, drop in their email address, give them the manager or editor or promoter. We don't have to get into details today about what these are, but basically it goes from more permissions to less permission. So if you have somebody that's going to work with you on creating these campaigns and tweaking them and sharing them out, just invite them to the platform and then they can work with you. So it's not all falling on your shoulder. Okay, so let's actually jump into the campaign, or one of the campaign, and what we're going to talk about are layouts. So layouts are the different things, different ways your campaign pages can look, right? You might notice some look different than others. And I'm going to show you, basically, this is the edit screen for a layout for a campaign. And I'll go through what each one of these actually look like. So I'm not going to ask you to imagine it, but I do want to quickly show this so I can talk about what each one is. And basically, in the edit section of your campaign, you can go and change your layout if you wish to do so. So the first one we will look at is a standard layout, and that's a more traditional layout that you may be used to from most fundraiser campaigns you may have seen. Some are on our platform as well. And one thing to point out is these visual graphics, or the image down here is actually a representation of what that layout would look like. So when we actually take a look at a page, you'll see this, but we have basically an image, you have your order or contribute button here, a story, some rewards, and that's your typical layout. We also have a social storefront, which is treated more like a storefront as opposed to like a traditional fundraiser or campaign page, rather, from Crowdfundr. We also have a simpler version of that. It's a simple storefront, which takes away some of that social elements. If you really just want a page with, say, hey, go in here and order these things if you need to without it being more complicated, that's an option. And then we have something called a series-based crowdfunding layout. And I'll talk about that when we actually look at one example of that to give you a better idea of what that is. So let's jump into a standard one real quick. So we have this one, we were looking at this earlier, but Ricochet and things. And this is what we basically call the standard layout. So you have a place for your images, you can upload videos here, you can click on play video, you have your progress bar as well as the amount you contribute, days running, days left, etc. And as you scroll down, there are your social icons to share it out. You have your story. You have these perks and rewards that people can claim. And as I scroll down, I'll show you as soon as I get to the bottom, there's a section here for activity and updates. So here we are. So if you remember a few slides ago, I was talking about how you may want to engage with your backers and thank them for the work, for supporting your work, or engage with them just in whether it's to thank them or to ask them to share it with their friends. You can easily do that. You can click like their message right from here, and this happens in the platform. You can click on comment and you can write a message back to them directly. And again, they feel that way they're being seen. You can share that on your social media if you wanted to. And In the very off case, if you ever had a reason to delete something, you could. We do provide you the option. It is your campaign, so you should have the ability to do that if you feel there is a need to do so. But you can basically can interact with them right here, right? So if somebody does, like, let's say if you have a really, really big reward, like a one limited edition thing, and you put it up there and somebody claims it, you can share that on your social channels and say, hey, it's been claimed, like, congrats to so and so for grabbing the only edition of this out there right now. So you can kind of build on that and really just engage with your donors, not just on the platform, or sorry, engage with your backers, not just on the platform, but also, give some more visibility outside of your platform into other social channels. But at the end of the day, this is a standard campaign. And as you scroll down, you see there's that contribute button, still follows you. So you don't always, it's always in the line of sight somewhere. All right, next up, we have a social storefront. And a social storefront is basically a title or image. We scroll down, we have our story, so whatever we put here. And then at the bottom of the story, we'll have a grid-like view. So we have three here, but basically all of your different rewards and products that you may be selling, they'll all start showing up in a grid-like view, and they'll be row after row, depending on how many of these you have. So let's say I want to get this map, this subway map here. I would click into this. It shows me what this is. It shows me, who's it by, etc. All of those things I'll know because I clicked into it. I can right off the bat claim this perk from here. And I can also, when I'm creating these rewards, which we'll see in just a few minutes, have the ability to upload the image of that exact thing, the exact perk or reward. I can add some more information there. We can set it so it shows how many of them have been claimed so far, if it ships worldwide or to certain countries. You may have something that doesn't require shipping at all. It could be a digital product. We do, and again, if you have an estimated delivery date, you can also drop that there. And as I scroll down, it also shows to the backer or the person claiming the perk, other perks that they can claim or other rewards they can claim. So it kind of said, hey, cool, you're getting this. Just FYI, these are the other two things if you're interested as well. So this is the social storefront, and this too has an activity feed, but with the demo, we don't have any transactions here, but it does show up on the bottom. So you can still have that engagement with your users in your community. Next up is a simple storefront. And the difference between a simple storefront and a social storefront is you don't have this big picture that we saw up here. If I scroll back to the top, this right here with the social icons, that's basically what's missing here. I can still scroll down and I can still see everything here, the story that I may put, and then at the end of it, I would still see the same perks, but it's a more concise version of it. So as I said, if you want folks to just come in here and grab what they need to, and that's the style you're going for, this would be the layout for you. So very similar to social storefront, just a little different in the sense that there's less content on the page. And then that takes us to our fourth layout, which is a series-based crowdfunding. So a series-based crowdfunding is actually very, very cool if you are putting out work that has multiple iterations, versions, volumes, editions, you name it, right? So if you are, let's say, I'm going to comic books again, if you have a series of comics that are based off of one idea or one theme, and there's different volumes of it, you may want to create this page for the overall comic, right? Like the world that you have going on. And basically what happens is you create that, and then at the bottom, you have your story, and then you scroll down and you can have individual campaigns within that one. So again, series, right? So you may have volume 1, volume 2. You may come back a month or two later or whatever amount of time later and say, hey, I'm ready to do volume 3 and start a new one. And it will just show up here as you start a new one within the series-based crowdfunding. And this is super great because somebody may discover your work on volume 4 and they see that and they, let's go to volume 2. They see that, oh, this is so cool. I really like this, but I kind of want to see all of them. They'll see sub-campaign up. They click into that and it takes them back here and they can go down and they'll see, oh, I can grab volume 1 as well, especially if you have that storefront, converted, of that campaign converted to a storefront after. So you can easily set this up in a way that it's basically, your catalog for that particular comic with all the different volumes accessible within one campaign page. So it's a really good way to organize and categorize this stuff. So you can have as many of these running. You can have, like I said, multiple campaigns running simultaneously. So if you know you're going to do volume 1 and 2 at the same time, you've got the work ready, you need to publish them. People can theoretically go and support each individual one here, or they could just contribute to the overall series-based crowdfunding here as well. And this can always be live. Even if your other campaigns may finish, you can always say, hey, keep supporting this project because we're going to do volume 3 and 4. And you can have rewards showing up here, different rewards showing up for each individual volume as well. So, we'll talk about this in a bit, but if I go to volume 1, you may have a reward that said volume 2 out now, also claim this, right? Volume 1. So it will be a bigger price, but you can do volume 1 plus volume 2. So just some ideas out there on how you can do this. And, I'll keep saying again, because I think it's important to know that we do have a team. So if you feel like, I like the idea, but, maybe it's a bit overwhelming. How do I do this stuff? We don't expect you to know this right away. So if you do have, interest in doing some of these things and you're like, but I could use a little bit of help, like reach out to us and we'll work with you to get this set up the way you like it so that you can be as successful as, we think you can be and we hope you think you can be. So those are the different campaign layouts. Let me go back to my slides here real quick. So we'll talk about next rewards on Crowdfundr. So again, the perks and the rewards especially. And there are technically 4 different types of rewards that you can have on Crowdfundr. But again, as I mentioned, what today's session is focused on, print-based material. And I think there are 2 in particular that are the most relevant to our audience. So the first one is products and the second one is perks. Now, we do have these categorized separately. We've seen them interchangeable, but at the end of the day, the way we like to define it, a product is something that you can manufacture and sell. So an actual physical book that you would have printed and then shipped out to the people who claim that particular reward. And then a perk, on the other hand, is the way we like to define it, is things that are valuable, but you don't physically need to send them out. So, I always say like things like a digital copy of your downloadable copy of your comic or your graphic art, or, if you do a really cool sketch for a pin or a sticker, and somebody said, I want to get this, but I can't afford the actual shipping and whatnot, but I still want to get a piece of this digital work. And if that's something you want to do, you can literally put up a digital version of that, like a PNG with a watermark or something, and that can be sent out to the backers, right? So there are different scenarios where that would be super, super useful for you. But these are the 2, in my opinion, that I think would be most relevant to print-based creators for comics and graphics, especially. And then, of course, like I said, any kind of artist that does creative works. So let's take a look at rewards in Crowdfundr real quick. So going back here, just close some of these guys here. Perfect. Okay, so rewards. We're going to start off by looking at a standard layout campaign, and mainly because I wanted to show you again what like the rewards look like before we dive in and create one. So just as a reminder, rewards show up on the side here, unless of course you have a social storefront or a storefront, and that would show up on the bottom. So you would have that there. But again, you can click into it. It does have that information you saw earlier, the image you selected, the sort of the blurb that you have about what that is. And then if you selected the additional features such as showing the amounts left and so on, they will show up in the bottom here. So that's what they look like. And you can really have a lot of different rewards. We have 3 set up in this particular example. But let's take a look at how we go in and set one up together, so you kind of get a sense of what it takes. So right off the bat, first thing you're going to need to do is have your campaign page. So once you've got a campaign page, you have a place to put your reward. So we've got this campaign page, and we'll just use this. Again, this is just a demo page. We want to go into edit on the left panel there. And from edit, we'll notice we have a section called rewards. So I can click into that. And right off the bat, we're seeing those 3 rewards that we've already had created. So they're all here. I can go in and I can edit them. I can actually clone them as well. So if I really liked it and I want to clone it and just tweak it a little bit, I can do that. We can feature it. Just kind of put a banner on there. We can disable or delete it. The only thing to note with rewards is that once a reward has been claimed, so let's say this digital edition, somebody went ahead and purchased that digital edition. I cannot at that point delete it because that reward has been claimed. You collected the funds for it. You do need to fulfill for it. What you can do is that you can say, well, I'm done with that, or there was a mistake there and I don't want to keep putting this one out there. You can disable it. So it doesn't delete it, but nobody else can claim it at that point. So you can disable it. So we still got you a little bit there. You don't have to worry about like, oh, am I stuck with this forever? No, you have the ability to turn it off, and then you can clone it, create another version of it with the edits that you were hoping to make, and then that new one goes live and people can start to get that. So you have less people to fulfill that incorrect order for, or maybe even talk to them and say, hey, sorry about that, I'll refund you, can you place this order again? Different ways to go about it, but you can disable it. But I might want to create a new reward. I have an idea for something else I want to do, so I'll go ahead in here and click on add a reward. And then it takes me into my reward creation process. So just to keep it in theme with today's session, I'm going to say photo of Gus. Oops, I could spell that correctly. I'm going to make a photo of Gus available. I'm going to go ahead and upload a photo. So I want to use this photo of Gus. Let's get that in there. Perfect. So we've got that photo of Gus. Now, again, as I mentioned, we have 4 reward types where really 2 are applicable. Just FYI, you can sell tickets, and there could be something that's a wish that could be granted on behalf of the campaign. So again, not really all that applicable in our use cases for artists in general for the most part. There might be some scenarios where that could be the case, especially with tickets. But right now, I don't want to make this a product because I'm not going to go ahead and print these pictures out and I'm going to send them in the mail. That's not my intention. My intention is to make a digital copy of this sent to the person that claims it. So I'll keep it as a perk. And price, I'm going to keep this price a fixed price. I'm going to say it's, let's say $5, right? I could make it a variable, and that's your minimum, your suggested, and maximum. And again, this is really kind of giving people a bit more of an option. But at the end of the day, if you're printing your work and you're pricing it out to maximize your profits while keeping it fair, I think a fixed price is the best way to go because you have a lot more control over how much each transaction will be. So in my case, I'm going to keep it at a fixed price and make that $5. Now you can put in your cost, and what that means is you might ask, let's say, $30 for a comic, and it may cost you 15 to make. So you might put 15 for your cost here, and then for your bookkeeping purposes, or if you do happen to be able to issue tax receipts, you're going to need to put that in there. But at the end of the day, it's really about, like, is this information useful to you? Now, you don't have to put anything there. You can just leave it blank, and that just treats it as 0. So that's fine. That's totally up to you. And then as you scroll down, this is where you can put in that description. I can say, get this great photo of Gus to use as your desktop wallpaper, right? So again, whatever you wanted to put there, you can add links, you can add images in here as well, I believe. So there's all kinds of things you can do. If you have a stock keeping unit number, you can throw that in there. And if you have a link to learn more about the reward, now I'm going to specifically mention that this is not the link that people will need to access the reward from. This is just more of like, learn more about this here. And then they go to a landing page that has a bit more information about that. We still, however, need to make sure that people have a way to get this reward digitally. So let's go back to the top and let's go through the rest of these settings to make sure we've got them all set up properly. We'll start with quantity and delivery. Now, I am doing a digital reward, so it's photo. I can have unlimited, so I'm not going to go set a total available. But if you are selling copies of your book and you have only 100 to give out at the moment, you may want to set that to 100. And that's really just more to cover yourself a little bit so that, I hope everybody goes viral and your work becomes so amazing that everybody wants a copy, but you don't want to be in a situation where you wake up and you find out you got 40 more books to print that you don't have all of a sudden because orders came in that you hadn't, maybe thought would happen as quickly. So by setting that limit, at least for now, you can say, okay, we can only send out this many of these stickers or pins because that's what we have on hand. And then, of course, if you see that the demand for it, you can always, disable that particular reward, get a whole bunch more made, and then re-enable it so people can go in and claim it if that's the case. Or, of course, in the event of you setting up a comic, you may say, no, we're not going to do that. I want to raise so much and I want to see how many people are going to order. And then based off of that, you're going to actually get your your book published for that many volumes or that many that count for that matter. You may also say, I want to limit it to one per contribution. So somebody cannot go in and get 30 copies of something if you only have so many to begin with. You want to try to make sure as many people are able to get it that want to. And you can show the stats. So if you remember, we were looking at earlier how many people have claimed that particular award. It shows up there if you select this option. If you don't have this option, then it's not going to show up for anybody. Now, again, in this use case, I don't really need to show stats, right? Because people are just getting a digital copy of it. But if you have, let's say, 100 copies of your comics and you show stats, what that does is it creates that, it almost incentivizes people to say, I'm not going to put this off any longer because they came in yesterday and they saw, oh yeah, 20 have been claimed, there's 100 in total, that's fine. And then they come in the next day, like, oh, wait a minute, 85 have now been claimed, and I better get my order in now before it runs out. So by showing that, you can kind of almost inspire people to try to process their order today, as opposed to putting it off a little bit. So it's kind of little things like that that can help you, get to your goal a little quicker. Again, I don't really need to do that, so I'll leave that the way it is. Now, if you do have a delivery date, you can go ahead and set that here. But again, we don't have that, so we're not going to set it up. And we do need to ask for the contributor's name and email because we're doing a transaction. So that's going to be by default checked. Okay, so we've got that set up, and now we're going to go to shipping and fulfillment. Now, for this particular scenario, we actually want to do digital fulfillment. We'll talk about the shipping stuff in a second, but I want people to go and we're not going to be mailing it out. So what's going to happen is when they complete their order, the system is going to send them an email with the information around how they can get a copy of that photo. So if I've got my photo saved in a specific location, this is where I would enter that URL. So I'm just going to put crowdfundr.com for now, but that's, people will get that. And then if there's a label that you want, so it's like, get your Gus photo here. Oh, I think there's a limitation. Gus. Yeah, so I think it's 20 characters, sorry, yes. So obviously we don't want it to be too long either. And again, if there are specific details for the fulfillment that you want to share with the folks that are going to get that message, you can of course add that here. So that's basically it. And then if they place the order, once the transaction goes through, they get an email with that link, with that label, and then they can get the copy of the digital copy of what they have ordered. However, if you are doing something that requires actually shipping out the product, you can decide, are you going to ship anywhere in the world? And if you do that, then, it's going to say, oh, this is how much it's going to cost us. And then specific countries can be, maybe like if you're working, I'm in Canada. So if I'm shipping in Canada, it's a little cheaper for me than it might be to ship in the UK, right? So I might have different shipping prices for that. Or I can say, you know what, I only have the ability to ship in US, Canada, and Mexico because that's within reach for me where I am. So I would go in and say, okay, I'm going to first pick Canada. Maybe my shipping within Canada is $7 for this specific item. And then maybe for the United States, it's, $12, whatever it may be. You would just drop that in there. And again, these are not part of your overall goals that you're trying to raise funds for. So they're not going to be included in that total amount. Your total amount is more about that particular, like, what do you need to get that work ready to be shipped out. So when folks are ordering this, they'll have that shipping cost associated with it as well on top of what they want to pledge. So just something to be mindful of. And yeah, and then you basically do that. And then if you happen to have a way to give people a free pickup, they can certainly, you can select that, and you just need to let them know where they will go to pick their order up. So if you are an indie publisher that happens to also have a physical storefront somehow, or somebody who does, and you're offering free pickup, you may select that. And at the end of the day, it's a very small group of people that'll have that option because they physically need to be able to get to that location. But it is always a nice little thing if you have the ability to do so. And basically that's it, right? So I'm going to close these off, but I'm going to go ahead and select digital fulfillment because that's what we're doing. And again, variants. Now, this is, again, not as relevant in this particular scenario, but if you did have different versions of something, you could, give. So We use this often for things like t-shirts. So variants could be like sizes or colors of shirts. So we have a few different kinds of shirts. If you support us, back us, whatever, we'll send you a shirt. You can have the different variants. So some people are small, some people are medium, some people are large, XL, 2XL, whatever the size may be. Having the variants allows people to pick exactly what's the right thing for them. But of course, with your works in comics and graphic arts world, you may not have that many versions of it, right? So you may have different covers possibly for the works you may do, but that could be its own reward. Like, you have cover A or cover B, and it doesn't have to be a variant, but it can be somebody might really like that versus the other one. So it's maybe a better way to showcase the different artworks associated with the covers. So we've got that. And lastly, promo codes. This is really cool because what you can do is essentially give promo codes to people that are interested in purchasing your work. So maybe you have a mailing list that you've been building up over time and you send out newsletters for your work. And for your community, your newsletter community, you may want to say, hey, we're going to launch this campaign. Thank you for being a supporter. Thank you for being on the mailing list and the newsletter. PS, use this promo code and get 10% off your order, exclusive to our mailing list subscribers or our subscribers. So all you do is you click on add a promo. You can decide if you want to give a percentage off or amount off. So, people may want to buy multiple versions of something. So you may say, well, I don't want to go more than like $30 off. That's, because if somebody spends $1,000 and they get 10% off, that's too much money, right? But let's say, we'll just keep it simple for now, say 10% off the order. You can create that code. So I can call it, subscribers, whatever you really want to call it. You can set an expiration date. So especially if you're going to have that storefront and that's the campaign that gets converted to a storefront, you may not want to have this on forever, right? Or maybe you do, but maybe in your mailing list, you can say, hey, we're mid-August, I'm launching tomorrow for the rest of the month. You can get 10% off. Here's the code. And then it creates that sense of urgency as well. Oh, but now I can set that expiration to the 31st at 11:59 p.m. my local time zone. So when I go ahead and do that, basically that's when the promo will stop working for people. So, then we can say 10% off for our mailing subscribers. And then let's go ahead and apply that code. Okay, so now that shows up there, it's applied. You can get that link right there. So if you wanted to add that to your newsletter, you could do that or share it through your social channels, whatever makes sense to you. And I'm going to go ahead and add a reward. Oh, something is off there. There we go. So I've got certain countries, so no shipping worldwide. We'll just do digital. Let's take a look here. Oh, sorry, I need to do 0. There we go. So now we've got that set up there. You can see we have the perk, the amount, limited to 1 per contribution. And of course, this is all here. I just need to make sure I click on save. And then once I do that, I can see on the bottom, there's that perk. Now, just a quick thing to note, again, if I go back into my rewards and I say, I like that perk, I just don't want it to be on the bottom, I can simply click and drag it up. So I can put it anywhere I want. So maybe I want this to be the first thing I show to people. So again, I go to hit save, go up here, and you can see that becomes the first reward on the place. So if I click into it now, I can claim it, and then I'll go through the checkout process. Once I do that, I'll go ahead and get an email with the link to download the photo of my handsome duck Gus. So again, we're kind of just glazing past some of these things here. And of course, I fully realize there will be very specific questions people may have with their rewards, their campaigns, their layouts, and we're always happy to help. We've got a help center. We've got the creator hub that we are always keeping an eye out on as well. There's tons of ways to reach out to us and get information. But we do specifically offer the ability to speak with us because we want you to not feel like you're on your own with this and feel intimidated that if you can't do it, or you don't have like this $20,000 project, it's not the right place for you. Even if you're doing a $200 project, if you want to chat with us and talk about how to set it up, we're all game for it. We're happy to have that conversation with you. We'll hop on a Zoom call. We'll talk through what you're trying to do. We'll give you some guidance if you're looking for any, and really talk about how you can maximize success for your project. And of course, we're hoping that you do, so that when you come back for your next project, we can, you'll be a lot quicker at it and you get better at it. But I think with each project you do, you might find, oh, I can up my goal or I can offer something bigger. And, we want to grow with you essentially. So with that being said, thank you so much for, bearing with me, hearing me talk for, feels like what, half an hour? An hour, okay. Any questions? I know we're at the end of the hour. I apologize if I didn't leave too much time for questions, but I'm open to taking questions at the moment. If anybody would like to either put in a chat box or unmute yourself and just kind of ask that up, I'm happy to do it.
Hi, I have a question. This is Andrew.
Yes.
Hi,
Hey.
when you're talking about being like post-campaign and turning into a storefront, is it possible to change the layout of the page then from like a campaign to a storefront layout or series layout?
I believe so, yeah. So you can, have a standard layout and then change it to a storefront after, or if you have a series-based. The thing with series-based is you have to keep in mind that in a series-based, you have your main page and then you have the individual series that are on the bottom there. So you may not even have to change the layout because it keeps those products available. The storefront layout is really great if you have multiple works that you want, like the different works essentially that you want to have available all in one place. Because let's say with the standard campaign, those are all perks, right? So those perks can always be on the side. So it just kind of keeps the same vibe without really feeling like you're trying to raise money for, to grow that project. So, but you can certainly tweak them around a little bit and change things up so that, and it automatically rolls over, by the way. You don't have to do anything specific to make it accessible. It'll just kind of be always available, but you can certainly change things about the way your campaign looks even after you completed it. There are certain limitations at that point, of course, because especially if you end your campaign, but because your campaign hasn't ended, you're able to modify it.
And does disabling a reward take it off the public page?
Yes, it will. I believe so. I might have to double check on that for you, but I believe it does take it off the page so people cannot go and claim it. It just sort of hides it. And you know what? Let's test that out. This is a good thing to do live. So let's go ahead and we'll go back to this one here that we just created. And I want to go back to my rewards. So let's go back so just to keep in mind, we have this here still. We'll go to edit. We've got our rewards. And let's go ahead and disable this guy right here. Yep, disable it. And again, it just says that make it unavailable. And you can re-enable it. You can see the option is there. So if I save that, go back, there you go. So it's not there anymore. And if I scroll to the bottom, it's not on the bottom. So it does take it away. And it could be a limited edition thing. You might decide I'm going to do this once every week, once every 2 days, once every 2 weeks, whatever it may be. You can certainly disable it and then re-enable it if you have the need to do so.
Thanks. I have one more question also.
Go for it.
With shipping prices for rewards, this is something that I've appreciated about like playing with Crowdfundr versus something like Kickstarter, that backers can sort of select rewards a la carte and build what they want instead of everything having to be like very specific bundles. But I've noticed that it doesn't look like there's a way to adjust the shipping prices. Like if you select multiple books, you'll be charged full shipping for each one. And is there any way around that?
Yes, so that's a good point. So if we do go back to our rewards, and let's go ahead and edit this one here. Let's go back to, you'll notice on the bottom, once you add up all your different, there is the option to combine shipping for the reward. So it is going to say, we're going to combine only one shipping cost for the orders for the multiple items in the reward. So you have the ability to not,
But that's only for that one single reward, right? Like if you have 2 different books on your campaign that are different rewards.
Yeah, no. So this is for multiple.
For each of them together. Even if you could put them in the same box.
Yeah, I need to double check on that because you're right. This is multiples of the reward. So if you get like 4 copies of it, it will be 1. But I do want to double check on that. I feel like at the moment it is, but we are also, I should mention, we're looking at our shipping structure at the moment because much like yourself, that suggestion you made, there are a couple of other ones we've gotten from some of the creators on our platform that are particularly interesting and at the end of the day, logical things that we want to try to move towards. So let me double check on that one for you. And if not, we'll definitely add it to our feature request so that as we look at shipping overall, we're considering what it means for people that get 3 or 4 different items. We don't want to have them pay $18 for 3 things at maybe $6.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Good question, though. I mean, it's definitely something we want to make sure we're accounting for when we solve that problem, if we have it. Any other questions? I'm also keeping an eye on the chat box. If you'd much rather just type it in, you're more than welcome to do that. I know we are past the hour, so I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I will remind you all again, you can reach out to us with specific questions. If you want to have more of a one-on-one chat and talk about your specific projects, please do reach out to us. And I suggest, you also check out the Creator Hub. And again, it's just crowdfundr.com/Creator Hub. Let's just go here, and you can go in and look at the conversations that are happening, ask questions. Our team is on there as well, viewing whether it's a feature request or just a how-to. You're just trying to figure out what you should be doing for your specific project. So there's a number of different ways you can reach out to us. I encourage you to do so if you have questions. But I think that may be it for questions. So I do really appreciate everybody's time, and yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.